Hmm. Hi ladies and gentlemen, Bruno Ravenberg here. The video that I'm going to be doing today is on witchcraft and Wicca. The reason that I'll be discussing both is because they're closely tied and related according to my knowledge and experience. And I'm simply going to discuss these matters in the way of defining them and giving my opinion on them for those interested, of course. Otherwise, don't watch this video. We're going to start with witchcraft first, okay? The definition of witchcraft is simply put a form of magic or a magical system, okay, which brings one's will, which sees to it that one's will comes into existence or comes within the stages of reality, okay. So again, witchcraft is simply a magical system in which the practitioner attempts to bend the universe to his will, or better said, reality to his will. This is the case for magic overall, but specifically regarding witchcraft, it is simply emphasis is laid upon one's own capabilities, as opposed to, for example, what I do, Western ceremonial magic, which places a heavy emphasis on the spirits that one works with and their capabilities. So again, witchcraft is simply a magical system in which the practitioner, okay, utilizes his own skill and his own astral energy in order to bring about change in the universe. That's basically witchcraft, okay. It's not uncommon, okay. I'm not saying that in witchcraft there isn't work done with spirits within witchcraft, but generally speaking, that's not the case. Okay, the way that witchcraft works, simply put, is that a practitioner harnesses his or her own will, okay, and builds up a good deal of astral energy, and then releases that energy into the universe as a means of making his or her will come into existence. What he or she wants to happen will happen. So when thinking about a witchcraft ritual, what you need to envision, generally speaking, is someone that stands in front of an altar and has several tools at his or her disposal, and then that person just focuses on said tools. Okay, those tools are simply a tool in themselves that are necessary to bring about certain intent or to instigate the intent. It's kind of like a focal point, okay? The practitioner focuses on said tools as a means to channel his intent, okay, where he wants that energy that he's generating to go to, and then he just ignites, or better said, instigates said energy attached to his goal within him, and finally releases it. So I'm going to give you guys an example of a witchcraft ritual, generally speaking. Let's just say someone that is doing a love spell, okay? Let's just say I'm a practitioner, I'm a witchcraft practitioner, I'm a witch or a warlock, whatever you want to call it, okay? Witch is unisex, so you can call a guy a male witch as well as a female witch a witch. But generally speaking, traditionally speaking, people still prefer to call male witches warlocks. But again, it doesn't matter, okay? That's how witchcraft, generally speaking, works. People that practice witchcraft also make use of things like external forces. For example, doing a ritual during the new moon or a full moon or a waxing or waning moon. The best time to do a ritual, you name it, all of those. These are minor improvements that can make results better or see to better results. But again, back to the example. I'm a witchcraft practitioner, and I want to cast a love spell on a girl or a woman that I like, that I have an interest in, okay? I want that woman to love me and to fall madly and passionately in love with me and all of that, okay? Things that I get are, I try to get as many things of her as possible that I can get. Her date of birth, all data, as much information on her as possible, a picture of her. I would place all these things on the altar. Why am I doing these things? I'm simply doing these things because these things will help channel my desired intent. It's a lot easier to do so when you have your target in mind, and and items relating to said target that constantly remind you of your target are in front of you. For example, a picture of the girl or the woman that I have a crush on. I'm not going to go as far as to say fingernails. That would be hard. Okay. Generally speaking, a picture, date of birth, things that are easily obtainable. All of these things would remind me of that, and aside from that, I can also add items like that remind me of what I want, love. Let's just say an image or a small statue of two people kissing, or an image of two people being in love the way that I envision it. You name it, it just keeps going on. All of these things are intent based, okay? They constantly remind you as a practitioner when you'll be casting that spell of what your intent is and what you want to manifest. Okay, that is done. And of course the regular things, candles and so on. Okay, also colored candles, for example, green or red, depends on your perspective. Red would stand for passion and so on. It all depends on the kind of love that you intend on receiving. Let's just say passionate love would be red, kind of fiery, because red represents fire and all of that. A red candle that is lit, all of those things, okay? And all of those things, and what I would do then, okay, what I would do then is simply I would how would I go about generating astral energy? I would simply focus on all of my items, focus on the picture of that person, and I would envision as lively as possible or as vividly as possible me being with that person, us holding hands, walking in a park, us kissing, us having sex or making love, whatever. You know, her being in my home, her going about daily life in my home, okay, me holding her, you name it, a bunch of things, okay, me touching her, all things relating to what it is that you desire. And I would continue to think on that and ponder on all of those things and just envision it as vividly and as lively as possible to the point where I reach a climax, and then I would just envision all of my energy being released into the universe and getting me what I want. That's all. That is what a witchcraft ritual looks like. That is what casting a spell looks like, okay? And like I said, witchcraft practitioners, people that are devoted to their craft, will automatically find ways to improve all of their own doings, okay? They'll find ways to improve their own skill and to bring about things that are actually doable, you know? Yeah, and that's basically what it looks like. They'd be adding improvements over time, like I said, working during full moon, waning, waxing moon, and all of these things. As time passes by and you become more experienced, that's what a witchcraft ritual generally looks like. Like I mentioned before, there are also people that practice witchcraft or witchcraft practitioners that make use of spirits, for example, that work with spirits, but there's not a heavy emphasis laid on spirits, okay? It's basically they either, in most cases, they work with pagan spirits because they feel connected to nature and all of that and automatically feel drawn to pagan gods rather than celestial or infernal spirits. But even if they do work with a spirit, it's simply asking a spirit for assistance during a ritual, or let's just say laying a seal on their altar, a seal of said spirit on their altar to assist in the working, and basically asking the person, for example, I'm just going to give an example, I can't think of a good one, a spirit that specializes in love, okay, just a spirit that specializes in love, that spirit's seal on the altar, and then to just tell that spirit or to ask that spirit, please assist me, the name of that spirit, please assist me in this working. That's how, generally speaking, a practitioner of witchcraft goes into play. There's not a heavy emphasis, as far as I know, to my knowledge and experience, laid on working with entities or handing the matter over to the entity as opposed to what it is that I do. Of course, I also have to do things from my part out, but again, a heavy emphasis, as heavy as possible emphasis is laid upon working with the spirit. So that is it in any case. And just for the record, witchcraft, although it seems interesting, it doesn't really interest me. It just doesn't appeal to me, honestly, for a number of reasons. It's too much work for me personally. I'm not going to wear myself down mentally because it can take a toll on you. Imagine just building up energy and just thinking about someone. Imagine wanting to destroy someone via witchcraft and then just having to rage and fume over that person during ritual for half an hour and just sending out that energy. It can be quite exhausting, okay? But again, personally, it doesn't appeal to me. It's also not my specialty or forte. I stick to Western ceremonial magic, which is what I'm all about. In any case, that is it regarding witchcraft, and that's my opinion on witchcraft. Witchcraft is okay. My opinion on witchcraft or towards witchcraft is neutral. Witchcraft is just basic witchcraft. There's not really a lot that I have to say, although I could, if I went deeply into witchcraft, I could gain a lot of information and give a lot of pointers and tips and all of that, but at the moment I don't feel like doing so. This is enough. This video in itself is enough. I would like to point out a couple of things, okay? Things that people need to keep in mind, things that I know by experience or from experience. This doesn't just account for witchcraft, this accounts for magic overall. Now, this is 101. Don't hurt anyone innocent, okay? If you cast a spell on someone that is innocent or doesn't deserve what he or she what came to him or her, okay, he or she doesn't deserve being punished that way, or doesn't deserve that energy being hurled, or yeah, he or she doesn't deserve that energy being hurled at him or her, then hurled. Okay, he or she doesn't deserve that energy being thrown in his or her face, then so to speak, then then you're going to get into huge trouble, okay, because karma is going to hit you fivefold or multifold in any case. So metaphorically speaking, you make that person lose one finger, you'll lose your entire hand. You make that person lose an arm, you'll lose all limbs. That's something that needs to be kept in mind. What you're doing is you're cursing and destroying yourself in the process by doing so. That is it in any case. Regarding witchcraft, these are things that you need to keep in mind as a witchcraft practitioner. Be aware of the limits of your craft, and be aware of how far you can go, and be aware of right and wrong. That is it. And next up, I'm going to discuss Wicca. Wicca, honestly, is just a dumbed down version of witchcraft. Wicca is really naturistic by nature. And again, more often than not, practitioners of Wicca have close ties to paganism, and they love working with nature or in nature, and they rely heavily upon naturistic based entities like elemental spirits and so on in their workings. But honestly, like I just said, Wicca is kind of like the simple man's magic. Wicca, when you think of Wicca, someone practicing Wicca, just envision someone erecting an altar to Mother Nature or spirits, naturistic spirits, elemental spirits as a whole, and just offering miscellaneous things and just dancing around the altar, or just casting, just lighting candles and just saying a prayer or something. I'm not saying that Wicca doesn't have its potential. Wicca has potential. I'm not saying that. Wicca does have potential, but I'm not going to lie. Wicca doesn't nearly have as much potential as what I do or anything else, okay? Wicca is for people that want to practice the occult, but more in a relaxed, soothing fashion. There's not a heavy emphasis laid upon devastatingly great results and all of that stuff. Nah. So basically what you're doing is simply making meager offerings and holding simple mundane rituals to elemental spirits or naturistic spirits or spirits tied to nature or that have naturistic attributes. And you're just, generally speaking, you're just making offerings to all of them as a whole, not just one of them, unless that Wicca practitioner, that Wiccan, is deliberately working with a single entity or a sole entity, like the Greek god Pan, for example, associated with nature, and so on. Okay, or for example, the Titan goddess, the Greco-Titan goddess Gaia, who basically represents Mother Earth and all of that. Okay, these are all things that you need to keep in mind. That's basically what Wicca looks like. Other than that, Wicca doesn't really have. There's not too much else to say about Wicca. There's very little else that you can say or state about Wicca. I'm not insulting Wicca for the record, okay? It's fine, but I'm just saying that Wicca is like the lighter form of witchcraft, and less emphasis is laid upon the results, and people just go about practicing in a mundane way, in a relaxed, mundane way. So you can forget, okay, any heavy emphasis being laid upon results, or you can forget becoming a multi-millionaire as a Wiccan or anything like that. No, Wicca is literally just someone. When envisioning a Wiccan, you can envision someone that loves nature and someone that just enjoys communicating with nature deities or naturistic spirits, elemental spirits, and so on, or forest spirits, and just basically gives thanks by erecting an altar in his or her living space or otherwise, and just inviting these spirits or that spirit to be part of his or her daily life, or whatever part of life he or she wants to invite that spirit to. That is all regarding Wicca, and yeah, there's nothing else that I can say about Wicca. My opinions and viewpoints on Wicca are also neutral, like witchcraft. I have no problem with Wiccans, I have nothing against Wiccans, but it's definitely nothing for me. Nah, absolutely not. I'm all about the best of the best of the best, and Wicca absolutely does not fall within that category. That is it in any case. Anybody that wants that's new to these topics can check out links in the description below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.